You're almost going on.
You're live. Hello,
Yeah.
YouTube.
Hello.
Why does it look
YouTube.
really different? Like they look a little fake.
Yeah.
Like green screeny.
We are real. My shirt says so.
This is something real.
This is real life. This is something real.
I'm not saying
And we have
necessarily.
something to talk about.
I'm not saying it is a bad thing.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, YouTube. You're used to it by now.
All right. It's a wild and woolly week, and it always is when YouTube comes in and gets us before we actually get the rest of the stuff rolling.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ahoy.
Ahoy.
Or what would they say in Alaska?
Hi.
Oh. Well,
Welcome,
that was
everybody.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, they don't have their own language.
They might say, "Get out! You people are weird."
Yeah, all this week has done for me is confirm my desire to want to live in Alaska.
Alaska's good, especially when it's been like 90,000 degrees
Right.
here. It seems like
Nice and cool.
I can't believe
not
I was
many
wearing
people.
flannel this morning.
I still got it. I'm doing the 90s.
I took mine off when we were setting up, but
the 90s tie around your waist thing.
it's a good thing. It's
Yep.
a good thing.
So if you can't tell because you're listening and not watching, we are stationed.
We've traveled north.
Yes, we are stationed currently in front of our VBS backdrop for the week with this cute little otter between us and a campfire.
Indeed.
Otter is my favorite animal.
You know, we had a really good time when we lived in Monterey, California. The otter was kind of the thing down there. So otters and sea lions everywhere.
But those were
sea otters, not river otters.
I think river otters
similar
are
personalities. Cuter. I don't know that I could tell the difference at first.
I think one of them's a lot bigger. I want to say river otters are bigger.
Could be.
They hold hands when they sleep.
Yes, and they float on their backs and crack open shells and have.
What a life!
Super playful.
What a life! Playful. Just cracking open shells.
It's very cool.
If I liked swimming, maybe I would be an otter.
We used to be awakened by sea lions from our apartment. Like nice. My mom has roosters at the farm.
Nice.
Or peacocks at the farm, which is much worse than roosters. But yeah, we were, at the time that we were there was at the time or just after Clint Eastwood was mayor of Carmel, which is just nearby. And so we were hanging out down there and getting to do all the shops and all the cool stuff. We actually have a young friend who is currently there at the Defense Language Institute learning Farsi. So,
ooh, yeah. Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, just was texting with him a little bit ago.
Cool. So, yeah, we've been having a lot of fun and learning a lot about trusting Jesus this week with the kids.
Yes, indeed.
Great turnout for VBS this year.
It's been good. I think we've seen some of it is the word of mouth and relationships. Some of it is fuller communication in the community that people are seeing, whether it's from the Facebook ads or community bulletins. The word's getting out.
Yeah, it's great.
And,
just so when I walked in here last night, when our closing time, not the song, when the kids were singing, there's lots of different songs, but I think every year there's a big theme song that goes through the whole week, and the kids were singing that. And
that's the True North song.
Yeah. And some of it was just, I get they were trying to be loud, but to hear 50 plus kids and workers saying, let's trust in Jesus. I mean, it filled the whole, it brought tears to my eyes. It was.
Yeah. We're back at this point. We're at numbers that we used to have when it was a community VBS, when it was multiple churches together. And you probably can remember a time when you were a kid when the big thing was breaking 100.
Yeah.
You'd have the water balloon fight or whatever if you broke 100, all that kind of stuff. And from the demographics of the area to COVID, several of the participating churches either closing down or falling away from truth and faith had led to it essentially no longer. The VBS when the church that was in the building that we're in now, the Free Methodist Church, when they turned these assets over to another ministry and sold it to us. For that year or two, I don't remember how long it was in between, there was no VBS because this was our host site back then. And then when we started up, we had 1 year in the building and then COVID hit.
Right.
And so it was like, oh my goodness. And then we tried to do VBS with social distancing and all that kind of stuff that was going on.
Kids do really well with social distancing.
It was very interesting to see how that kind of stuff went on. And, like even our kids' church on Sunday mornings, Shelley would have them outside and they'd sit, 6 feet apart or whatever, which works great for kids. Anyway,
anyway, it's been a great week.
Of course,
far.
none of that turned out to mean a whole lot, but as we're coming, I'll say coming back, but over the last several years, the momentum has continued to build.
You can tell.
We tend to, if you recognize the True North theme or the backdrop there, we normally use Group Publishing's VBS. We have been very happy with the focus, the preparation that goes into it. They used to, years ago when I was selling VBS, they kind of had a reputation as VBS light, and that you don't have a lot of deep, things, and I guess my contention is it's Vacation Bible School. How deep are you going to get with these young kids? But you want to have a strong gospel message, and we felt like they've had a pretty clear, direct gospel message. What I love about Groups stuff, this is not a paid advertisement for Group Publishing, but
it's lunchtime.
There you go. Noon in a small town, you get to hear the whistle in the background. So, one of the things that I have appreciated about them back then too is they started a thing called hands-on curriculum for Sunday schools, and that the VBS, I think, if I remember correctly, grew out of their hands-on curriculum. They had the hands-on kids Bible that was so you're trying to engage them, and they do a really nice job, I think, of trying to engage kids in a multi-sensory experience that helps them to remember the point and to narrow the focus to everything that's going on in the VBS is pointing to this idea, this single idea, what in our sermons we would call a core reality. And so as we're talking about this true north, it's driving everything to the point of when life gets wild and uncomfortable, we can trust Jesus. And so we hit each of these points during the week. I think it's been good. And
really good.
I've had a really outstanding partner helper in the Bible Adventure Room this year. I normally don't have a regular partner, and so we'll kind of get somebody to fill in. And Suzanne was in there regular with me last year, which was pretty neat. But her job doesn't allow her to be here as consistently, so she's kind of a floater with some things. But it's been kind of cool. You've been a crew leader in the past, right? But this is your first time in a station, is that right?
Well, we did the Jerusalem Marketplace.
Oh yeah, because that was a different format,
but
also from Group, but a different format.
But yeah, when in this format, this is the first year I've been in a consistent station, which is
so the cool thing about when we did the Jerusalem Marketplace format is we were all in the main room together,
right? And so the kids just went throughout the room.
Yeah, so you kind of set up a market.
That was a fun one.
I thought that was cool. It was a lot of work, but I thought that was cool. But you also get to see each other's things. And that's kind of the downside of being, I was thinking of this morning as we were talking about some things in the text group. That it's the downside of being a station leader is you don't get to actually see everybody else's stations. I'd love to see Amy in the Imagination Station or Heidi in the Sticky Scriptures room.
But the cool thing, as a mom whose child is going through these things, is he's very eager to tell me about these things. This is what we did tonight in the Imagination Station, and this is what we learned. And he brings it up, and he wants to talk about it. And so I'm not getting the full picture, but I'm getting little glimpses of what's going on there. So it's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah, it's been a good time. I think the kids are, like I said, it really touched my heart to see them all singing "Let's Trust in Jesus." And
that I think to me,
because some of these kids most of them I would say don't attend our church.
Most of them don't,
and I don't know if they attend any church.
I would say more than half of the kids. Probably quite a bit more than half of the kids don't go to Real Life.
Right.
and for a significant portion of them, church attendance and the relationships that go along with that really aren't a part of their normal life.
Right.
So this VBS is a unique part for them. And then you got some other kids like
like Sutton.
like Sutton,
Yeah.
who
Just whipping
shows
out
up.
verses,
Let me
yeah.
just quote to you from Ecclesiastes, and I'm like
the exact
wow.
verse, yeah.
like,
Like, okay, girl.
okay, somebody's doing work at
Yeah,
home. This
that
is
was
good
cool.
stuff. Do you know if she's homeschooled?
I think I don't want to talk about this family's thing, but I think they moved to New Prairie. They might be homeschooled.
Okay, yeah. It felt like
It felt homeschooling.
It felt like somebody who's spending a lot of time in the scripture,
Yeah.
and so I was digging it. I don't actually know the family. I don't think you were describing them to me a little bit, but it's just neat to see
kids at all different levels.
all different
levels.
Right. And one of the things that group does that's different than some of the others in the past, and the others may have adjusted what they do, is keeping the crews or the groups of kids mixed by ages.
Mhm,
So
that is
rather
cool.
than having, we've got our fourth graders here and our,
Right.
and so on.
Yes.
They're old to young,
Right.
other than the preschool group.
Right. Which is the biggest group.
They're mixed together, so the older kids get to help the younger
Right.
kids.
I
and
saw
get to see
somebody
some
took a
examples.
picture. I think it was the Red Crew. Yeah, because it was George's crew. It was in the fellowship hall where they had like a Northern Lights backdrop, and they put the crew there. And it's like you
Yeah.
can't see that on the podcast. There's tall and then short, and then tall and then short, because they're all mixed together.
Notice the meaningful gestures in the
You just
audio.
hear on the podcast. So yeah, it's been cool. I'm excited for these next couple days as we round it out. But
Oh, I just noticed for Chuck Zabel's sake, we have an eagle in the background. Did you want to do
where's he?
on top of the roof? Well, you can't probably see
Where's
him.
the eagle? Oh, he's behind the roof.
Well, from our angle here. See, that's just for you, Chuck. All right.
Oh, and you said he watches it too, right?
He does.
There you go.
I think
There's
I'm pretty sure he
there's
does.
your eagle. Chuck.
Can you see it in the
Yeah.
camera? Nice. Oh yeah, top of the roof. Outstanding.
His name's Ernest. That's cute.
Ernest the eagle.
Cute. Anyway, in between all of this, we're still actually doing things.
Yeah.
Rich is doing things. He's working on sermons
I
and trying to
Don't
stay
know.
on track.
I don't know what we're doing.
So
Trying to show up on time for
well,
the preaching.
it
role.
happens.
It's the first time in more than 20 years of pastoring that I was late to the preaching because we had things happening, that were.
Can I tell you, I was genuinely worried about you because, for those of you who don't know, this is totally not relevant to what we're talking about. What else is new? This past Sunday, we do a couple songs in the beginning. We go through announcements, whatever. And we even had a little bit of extra time because we had a
Showed
baptism
video,
video.
yeah.
Gabe's talked about the Ark Encounter trip. And so we had a little bit extra time even. And then we get done with our last song. And that's when it's usually time for Rich to come up and start the sermon.
Yep.
And Shelly's like, well, this is awkward. I don't know where the pastor is. And so then we're all leaving because the kids are
He
dismissed.
ran away. That
But
sounds like a Rob Bell moment, actually.
But the thing that freaked me out was, so the kids are going down and I'm going downstairs
it was not a Rob
to
Bell
use the
moment.
restroom or whatever. And Brad is by your door of your office and the door was locked and his
I
eyes
don't
were
think
like,
it was. I think he just didn't open it.
well, he's like, I don't know the code. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is Rich passed out in there? Like, so I got worried for a hot minute.
Unless somebody locked it when they went out, which is
I don't know,
possible.
because Brad's like, I don't know the code. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
I'm locked in my own. I can't get out of my study here.
So anyway, yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah, no,
But-
it's these are not things that you're supposed to share, but
You see the behind
but
the
this
scenes.
is
of
something real.
We're
It's what
keeping
we
it
do.
real. Anyway.
But yeah, it was a particularly strange morning and a strange week. We've been gone with the youth trip for the latter half of the week, trying to get ready for Vacation Bible School, and then Sunday morning, I'm scrambling trying to finish the things that I didn't get finished because we were, I kept telling myself I was going to work in the hotel room when we got back, and I crashed out. It was
Right.
just, I was exhausted. Walking through museums takes a toll on old people like me.
I get home every night after this week and I'm like, I really didn't do anything, but I am exhausted.
Tired. Yeah. That kind of thing happens a lot. So I'm trying to get that stuff taken care of. And then we had someone from our greater church family who passed away Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And so went and prayed with his widow, our dear sister. And, wasn't very long, but it just was
Long enough to.
enough. And then came back trying to get stuff pulled together. And the sound system we had the problems with the sound system where
Right.
everything's falling apart.
Right.
And normally I don't get too involved in that unless it's something specific that I had set up. But time's going on. Shelly's starting to get panicked because they couldn't find it. So I came out, tried to help with that, fixed it. We have no idea how it got fixed. We didn't
Right.
really do anything different that hadn't already been done a couple of times. And then suddenly it's working. And so who knows? And so it's just about time to get started. And I'm like, I have much to do yet. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll go in and get this squared away, and sure enough, normally if I'm in my study, I can hear the difference between the singing and announcements. And so I'm, can see what's going on. It's fairly regular on a Sunday morning that, I may be in and out of the service, because I forgot to put the mic on, or who knows, different things. Any number of things can take me away. But I can tell when there's the singing, so I can come back in and be a part of that. And for whatever reason, I was too focused at the time or whatever. That seems unusual for me, right? I know.
Yeah, that was it.
I'm not used to being focused.
I'm just kidding.
And I did not hear the difference. I heard the opening song, and then I didn't hear any difference with anything else. So I did not know that you'd already played the videos. You'd already done the music. Maybe it was because the sound system wasn't as loud as normal. I don't really know. And all of a sudden, I got people coming to my door. I'm like, oh, okay. So
that's funny.
It was an interesting thing. But again, we're we've made a lot of jokes about what a slick operation we are over time. And while I don't ever want that to happen again, it is. I'm happy that we're not like a church machine. We're not so slick, and we try to bring the best of our craft. We want to make sure that whether it's the sermon or the tech or the music as we because there's a performance element. It's not performance, it's worship. And so I've taken to referring to you guys as lead worshipers more than worship leaders. But you do want to, you don't want to be distracting with low quality. We have a commitment to quality here. And yet sometimes we can begin to worship the quality. And we see that in the celebrity church experience that folks have and so on. I'm not trying to call anybody out in particular, but as you, we've done that plenty, but as you're seeing that dynamic, when everything goes right all the time, we can rely on ourselves. And one thing that VBS will teach us is things don't always go right, and you have to adjust on the fly and figure out how to do it.
We've done that pretty much every time.
Yeah, we had this snowflake day the other day when no two times were alike.
Yep.
But it's all God's work, and so if God is doing the work, we want to bring the best that we can to offer, but we want to remember that it's not ultimately our responsibility is not the word. It's not our ability that makes it happen. It's not our strength or even our faith. We promote that a lot, that faith makes things happen. No, it really doesn't. It's the object of your faith. It's, do you have yesterday's lesson that we were going through with the kids, with the Roman centurion? It wasn't his faith. Even when the Bible uses those phrases at times, it's conveying a different point. Your faith connects you with the power, but it's not your faith that makes this happen. The Roman centurion had a sick servant and didn't have the power to command him to not be sick, to get this situation fixed. But Jesus did. So his faith in Jesus led to him coming to Jesus, relying on Jesus, and Jesus taking care of it.
I always think of the woman who touches his garment in that same way. Her faith in him, that he would heal her.
It wasn't the garment. It wasn't just like, I'm going to, let's all go touch Jesus. But because she trusted him to do this work, he did this. And there was something, even the disciples are like, Jesus, we're in a crowd. Everybody's touching you. What's the problem here? But
it was her intention with that.
And so when we recognize that it's not us, it's not our goodness, it's not our faithfulness, our ability to cling to him that makes things good, that makes things right and holy, then we can begin to actually live in a way that reflects that. And I think that is kind of in a roundabout way that brings us back to this adultery
With
command.
10 minutes left.
Right. To this adultery command.
Right.
We've got a couple more weeks.
Right.
To
We
deal
can
with this
air it out.
As we're looking at the seventh commandment, which is pretty to the point, you shall not commit adultery.
Right.
Okay, boom, everybody gets that. And we were talking about that
Right.
in something to rant about before
It's
we got
that,
on here.
but it's not just that.
Right, because as we saw with murder, and we'll see with the rest of these, the prohibition implies its necessary opposite.
Right.
And so whenever we have this negative command from God, there's an implicit positive command. And generally speaking, when you have a specific prohibition, the implied necessary opposite is bigger, greater, broader than what that prohibition is. And so when we look at what God is calling us to, as he's calling us away from adultery, what he's calling us to is wholehearted living for him. That's the whole theme of Deuteronomy. That's the theme of the Bible, is that we were made for him. And everything in our existence is for him and through him, and it's his power. And the reason that we live is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And we see that woven throughout everything. So wholehearted living for God is the call, not just of every Christian, but of every human being ever created. Apart from living for Christ, until we embrace God on his terms, we can't fulfill our purpose. Right. So to keep this command in Israel, to not commit adultery, what actually needed to happen was to have a God-shaped view of what marriage and faithfulness is. So wholehearted living for God must reflect his faithfulness and purity. You can't be God's people and then decide, I'm going to do my own thing, or I'm going to follow the culture in these other areas. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I saw in some article, it might have been the Gospel Coalition, I can't remember, but and I didn't read all of it, but the gist of it, and it might have been the title or something similar to this, was that it's not. No, I'm not even going to have the words right, but basically,
why say many words when few words?
That seems to be a theme, right? That the key to not committing adultery is to live righteously. It's not to, I'm going to avoid this. I'm going to have this guardrail. It's to have my whole life moving in a particular direction of biblical love that's going this way. And so ultimately, our faithfulness doesn't come from us. It's a reflection of God's faithfulness. So when we see this command in Deuteronomy or in Exodus, or the whole picture of holiness in the book of Leviticus, the choices and consequences that take place in Numbers and Joshua and Judges, and then throughout Israel's history, what we see in all of these things is that God is the righteous and holy one, only God. And we are not made his people because we've done the right things, but because he chose us in his sovereign grace to be his people, speaking of Israel. And this is true also of the church. But because he chose us to be his covenant people, now as his covenant people, there is a requirement in the relationship. There's a code, if you will. It's not the pirate's code. It's not the code of the West, but it's this covenant code that says, because you are mine, you must be holy as I am holy.
Right.
I've set you apart. And so everything we see in the 10 Commandments is a reflection of that. And it starts with landing on who God is. I am the Lord your God. And so then everything else flows from that. And one of the things that we have to recognize is we today as God's people in the church, ancient Israel, as they're receiving this set of commands for the second time here, we reflect his nature and character as we live wholeheartedly for him. One element of that, or a facet of that, is to see through the gift of marriage that God intended, he built it into his created order, is that we get to reflect in that the faithfulness and purity of God in a way that we can't elsewhere. Like you and I as friends, we can have a fidelity and a purity that goes in that friendship, but it can't be the same as I can have with my wife. Right. As we're going through marriage, there's a different kind of a bond There's a deeper intimacy in the family. And I've said this with children. So, obviously you love my children. I love your son. But not the same, right? So your commitment, your intimacy with George is significantly different than your intimacy with my kids, right? My intimacy with my kids is different than yours with George. But it doesn't mean it's somehow of a lesser quality.
Sure.
It's of a different. A different qualitative thing. So when we look at marriage, God establishes marriage as a picture of his covenant relationship with his people. From the very beginning, from Genesis all the way through Revelation, we see this constant picture of God revealing himself, what he's like, who he is, how he interacts with his people, how we are to interact with him through this picture of marriage that's literally played out. It's not like marriage is a fake thing and some mystical, picture that it doesn't really matter what you do in your actual marriage because there's a spiritual reality. No, the spiritual reality is behind it, but we demonstrate that spiritual reality in actually living in faithful obedience to God. And if we don't do that, then we can't really say that we're honoring him if we're dishonoring the sanctity of the marriage institution.
Right.
So the command to not commit adultery is bigger than just don't cheat on your spouse, right? It is that, for sure. It's never less than that, but it's so much more. And in Israel, in the 10 Commandments, they can be short and to the point, because you have the rest of the Pentateuch building it out. You have the prophets coming along and clarifying. You have the wisdom literature. In preparation for this week, I was spending a lot of time yesterday looking at Proverbs. I'm like, wow, I can just preach the whole book of Proverbs because it's talking about a lot of these things, especially in the first 7 or so chapters. There's such a picture of the intrinsic value of personal faithfulness and purity, specifically in marriage, extended into the family relationship, then extended further into friends and business and so on. The way we conduct business in the marketplace is a reflection, as God's people, it's a reflection of who he is and who we are in relationship to him.
Right.
And we don't see anything that's different about that as far as that particular principle in marriage.
But the core thing there that you keep going back to is it starts with marriage.
It's the most basic unit.
Right.
Before there were children, there was marriage.
Right. And so what's interesting is that we get it so wrong in so many ways today.
Yeah.
It's so easy to distort things, and then people wonder why things don't work.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty, coming from a place where I'm a divorced woman, I'm a single mom, and I know that's not how it's supposed to be. And I know that I have unique challenges raising my child because of that.
Right. There's an ongoing suffering that you deal with on a regular basis.
And I worry for my child because I know that this isn't how it's supposed to be. And there's a role that I'm supposed to play that has now been distorted or added to somehow, however you want to put it.
Sure makes it a lot harder for you to play that role.
And and I'm certainly not the only one. There's all different kinds of families and circumstances and scenarios. And I remember growing up, now that I'm thinking about that, I don't know if it was on Sesame Street or whatever, but it had one of their little commercials where it was, there's all different types of families, and some families you're raised by your grandparents, and some families you're raised by an aunt, and that's all true. But at the bottom line, and I realize there's circumstances where people pass away or whatever, but many times there's all different kinds of families because we're getting it wrong at the core of things.
Right.
So,
and that's one of the differences that we've seen over time. And I mentioned Sunday, we used to use the term broken families for one, and now that's kind of out of favor because it's seen as derogatory. But the truth is still the truth, right? This is not. The way we are doing things is not the way God intended.
Right.
And so when we try to do it according to the culture, then it's broken before it gets started. Right. But when we have a marriage that, it's funny that we don't say broken families, but we still say failed marriages, right? So we can throw those things out. Broken is somehow more offensive than failed. I don't quite understand the logic of our culture, but we know that it isn't what it was meant to be. And now
Go ahead.
No,
you go. No, you.
But we keep on normalizing dysfunction, And we just keep explaining it away so that we don't want to say, you know what, this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Right.
There is a better way. And okay, this is our reality. It's what we're dealing with. And we have to figure out how to make that work. But it's not the ideal. It's
Right.
not what it was supposed to be. Therefore, I have to now, and you and I've talked about this, and I really appreciate your vulnerability, by the way, because you're sharing things at a personal level that I think maybe aren't always that easy to share. And so I really appreciate that. And I hope that our listeners, some of them can identify with that in a particular way, because we know that just statistically,
Right.
it affects a lot of people.
I'm not the only one.
But now I have to figure out, okay, how do I keep my child from ending up this way?
Mhm.
Because statistically, children of divorce get divorced.
Mhm. I'm a child of divorce.
Right. So how do I break that chain? How
Right.
do I start a new legacy? Having made choices or fallen victim to other people's choices, usually both, that now have set me on a path that I don't really want to be on,
Right.
but I can't undo that.
And didn't expect to be on.
And didn't expect to be on.
So
And that's, so I used to say nobody really expects to get divorced.
Right.
And then when we went through the 90s, when in the early 2000s, when people talked about starter marriages, it's just my first marriage. It's no big deal, right? And people did expect to get divorced. And now people regularly go in thinking, well, sometimes people just fall out of love. You know, you realize you're not with the right
people
person.
aren't even getting married.
And
They're
now
just, you know.
the divorce statistics have come down because people are not getting married.
Right.
So we don't track the informal coupling and uncoupling
Right.
the same way. I would suggest that the uncoupling is at least as high or higher than what we saw
And
before.
I would argue because people aren't taking it as seriously.
Right. So now we have a hookup culture.
Right.
Where you go in expecting, I don't need a man, I don't need a woman. I think you see it more with the you know, people are going to get all upset and cancel us. I think those people already left. But
would you like to see my American Eagle jeans that I'm wearing?
Nicely
anyway,
played.
Sorry.
That was something to rant about as we were dealing
Mhm.
with it. But
They are American Eagle.
but I think we see this more from
Women.
saying I don't need a man because of the you know, second and third wave feminism. And pushing this whole thing that's anti-family. We went from let's make sure that we're protecting women
Right.
and protecting their rights to
What is a woman?
Men are pigs. Therefore, the answer
Right.
is, rather than, you know, promoting marriage and promoting godly values, women should be pigs too. And that's
Right.
how we equal the playing field, is let's let everybody be pigs.
Right.
And that's not going to ever, it's just not going to ever produce the results that you actually want.
Right. Well, there's a lot more to dig into here. We're out of
we'll have
time
to
today, but
see
we
that
are
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So like Rich just said, have you decided on the podcast that we're doing this for 2 more weeks?
Halfway decided.
Okay.
So, you know,
At least one more week, maybe
it's
2.
for sure. We're going to be looking at it next week. We'll get into more of the practical things. We looked at more principle kind of stuff this week, and we'll get more practical. But as we're looking at it, there's just, we've gotten it wrong in so many ways. I just don't think I can cover it all
Sure.
next week.
That's
And
understandable.
we'll see. Maybe I can squeeze it in, but we'd like to not have a 2-hour sermon. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
And we'll talk about stuff here too. Hopefully things that are
Indeed.
relevant to what we're talking about on Sundays.
And if you have any particular questions that you'd like for us to address on here, you can comment in one of the videos and we can see if we can address that, or you can email us.
Right.
Do you have the email in the description and stuff?
It's
for people?
something real at reallifeonline.org.
Is that,
and I will
is
put
that
that-
operational?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It goes to actually my personal email then. So
All right,
I'll get
super.
it for sure. But yeah, leave it. Probably the easiest way is leaving a comment on the videos. We'll for sure see those. Or, even if you're on YouTube, if you have a comment or question while we're speaking, we'll try to get to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
if you're watching live, that's a good thing.
But otherwise, yeah, we'll be in this topic for at least another week or maybe 2. And it's never too late to join us on Sundays. We're a little more than halfway through the 10 Commandments, but
It might be too late to show up for the sermon, for the
Well,
pastor
maybe.
to show
You never
up.
know. And yeah, we're just breaking the ice on Deuteronomy still. We'll be in there a while. So
oh yeah, we're in chapter 5
Yeah,
after how
we're
many
there for
weeks
a
now?
while. So, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye,
Shoes.
YouTube. Did you say shoes?
Choose.
Shoes.